Vermont's a pretty unique waterfowl culture in regards we don't really have a great flyway. So you have to rely on the generosity of the generations before you to really get you involved in the sport. And as I think we've learned, you really have to be willing to grind it out sometimes. Especially in the southern part of the state, the weather can be pretty fickle. And in the northern part of the state, I'd say we're really fortunate. Vermont has a very large amount of open land and open water. So through the mentorship of previous generations and the things that we're trying to do now as a second, third, fourth generation Vermonter and outdoors person, I'd say it's pretty generous. Shoot him. So we are seeing really incredible habitat projects in the back door of almost every community in the state of Vermont. Certainly within a very short drive, there's a project either that's been completed or in the works, or where Ducks Unlimited has partnered up with another organization to accomplish a lot of really important conservation goals. I think that's made easier by the fact that Vermonters in general care about clean air and clean water. And when you look at the amount of protection that our watersheds can provide and what wetlands can do to replenish aquifers, help keep our water clean, I think people have started to embrace that. Where we had our first hunt when the weather didn't cooperate at 61 degrees is a 120-acre piece of property that a friend of mine and I were able to acquire. It's about 50 acres of open farmland that had been actively farmed up until a few years before we bought it. Since there wasn't a demand for that property to stay in tillable agriculture, we made the decision to try and protect that resource. Largely as it's encompasses, almost a mile of riverfront, if you include both sides. We really wanted to focus on erosion control. So the first thing we did is expand the riparian buffer out to 100 feet from the river on both sides. We've planted in excess of 400 trees. We've actually been grafting our own apple trees with some of the wild apples that are common in Vermont. The town that we are in is actually the origin of apple tree grafting. We changed the structure. I mean, they had heavily ditched the property to try to keep the fields dry, and consequently we were losing hundreds of yards of topsoil into the river every year, which as a conservationist, as a waterfowler, as an avid fly fisherman, that's not an appealing situation. We were able to plug up some of the drainage tile, redirect some of the heavy ditching that had occurred, and effectively created almost a 2-acre impoundment at the bottom of the fields, which drains not only our watershed, but an adjacent 250 acres. We've saved the sloped wetland that we had delineated. And we've also benefited from all that work in the respect that through moist soil management, which is our eventual goal, and this year, planting some corn in there in addition to millet and smartweed. This time of year when we get excess rain, we really benefit because waterfowl use it. And so it's a great place for us to bring new hunters. And we've been fortunate to introduce 11 new duck hunters in the last 3 years we've owned that piece of property. Hopefully we can start to match our seasons with what we could all agree on as a changing migration. And I look forward to those opportunities. And I would encourage people that want a chance to really grind away, maybe check off a black duck or two off their list, come pay us a visit.